Hi, I'm Dick Cavett, and as an actor, Christopher Reeve has, as you know, flown through the air in one film and kissed Michael Caine in another. Two dreams of every boy, I suppose, at some point in his life. He has stood up for the National Endowment for the Arts in front of Congress, not as an actor, but as himself, and fought to make this planet a better place at pro-environment rallies across the country. He's in a new film called Noise is Off, and I have a story about that title, and he is here tonight with me as well. Otherwise, all of this that I've just said would have been rather pointless if I suddenly turned and welcomed Mayor Koch. Chris, welcome.
He's available.
Wait, he's not mayor anymore, is he?
He thinks he is.
I'm having one of my spells.
He's self-appointed mayor, and he always will be.
Yeah, you hear more from him now that he's not mayor.
Now he's a movie critic. That makes me quick in my boots.
Yeah, actually, I've missed, by my count, all of his movie reviews. How are they?
I don't know. I mean, he loves movies, which is the main thing. But he does, you know, he's an acerbic guy. He really wants to kind of, you know, he doesn't have to make nice with anybody. But I think that's what was good about him as mayor, too.
Can you remember every needle you ever got from a critic?
I have an encyclopedic memory of all the bad reviews. I'll just quote one at random.
Okay, just pick one from your...
I did a movie which has become, actually it's become a classic. People love this film. I mean, it's become an American institution. That's a film called Somewhere in Time, which was a romance I did back in 1979.
Certainly my favorite.
It bombed so badly that it left a crater on 47th Street. But
they got tape up around the...
Right, you know, police barrier, do not cross. But then Vincent Canby said in his review in the New York Times, and I quote, "One more movie like this, and it's back to the Cape forever. This movie does for screen romance what the Hindenburg did for dirigibles."
Oh,
and there was a little byline, said, "Christopher Reeve looks like a helium-filled canary. Thank you, and drive safe." You know, it's like, you know what I do with reviews? I used to go out to the store, and I'd go and buy one review and take it home and read it. Yeah. And if it was good, I'd go out and buy another one. So like, until I got to the bad reviews. Sometimes it was just one trip.
Oh, I see. You mean you couldn't get them all at once?
I couldn't get them all at once. You couldn't have that much either good news or bad news at once. I had to parcel it out.
You know, that rings a bell with me. I have a feeling I once, I think when a book came out, and I thought, I don't want to get two blows at once. Maybe, yeah, that's, gee, we're very much alike. And I empathized with you on the other thing, too, because it annoys me, A, that you get my movie parts, and B, that when you get a review like that, you do tend to remember it word for word, exact quote, nothing wrong. Then there's the old saying that if you start believing the good ones, you're in even better trouble than if you believe, worse trouble, you believe the bad ones. The bad ones are infinitely more convincing somehow.
Also, I think that a critic has a better time writing a bad review because then you know, it's just easier to be clever and witty and funny at somebody's expense. I mean, humor, this segues actually to Noise is Off, as a matter of fact, but humor is so often cruel. I mean, we partly want to humiliate people.
Can be, because it is an effective weapon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed that when the guy slips on the banana peel, he's never walking down the street unsure of himself. It's always when he's walking down the street as though he's on top of the world. Yeah. And then he wipes out. And we seem to enjoy those misfortunes. And
do you ever find that when you drop, let's say, a heavy plate on that protruding bone just above the big toe and you're alone and the pain is excruciating, at that moment you think, now this would be a hilarious moment in a movie and I'd be laughing.
Right.
And this isn't funny. I'm sorry. This just isn't funny at the time. Great when it happens to others, especially to a critic.
Right.
But fortunately, the movie business provides those critics who enjoy dumping on things plenty to dump on in our lifetime.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Would you agree that us elder folks remember a time when there were at least a lot more good movies per capita than there are now? It just seems you get stung every 2 out of 3 times.
I think what happens is there's a real, the old days of the studio system, it was run by people who actually liked movies.
That's right.
They were self-made men. They came up with very little education, but they loved movies and they loved artists and they wanted to bring with them the great artists. There was this great exodus from Germany in the 30s of, you know, and then there was Faulkner writing there, and there was Fitzgerald writing, and the word meant something. Literature meant something. In fact, Broadway, was really kind of the Class A play world and film was a poor relation. Actors went off to do a movie, well, which we didn't really talk about. Then I go back on Broadway and do my Macbeth or whatever. And I think what we have now is we've got the studios are run by guys with business degrees who are really only we're pre-selling territories. Right. And that's how you get a movie. I've talked about this before, but you get a really interesting, original piece of modern literature like Bonfire of the Vanities, which they cast by pre-selling to an imagined audience. Well, Bruce Willis brings in this audience, Tom Hanks brings in this audience, Morgan Freeman brings in this audience, and they don't care anymore whether they're serving the author's intentions. And I think that really does a disservice to the audience who really doesn't care so much about stars. They want to see a story well told for their $7.
Has Tom Wolfe been heard from? I just haven't, if he was, I missed it. But the catastrophe of what they did.
I think he's hiding under a rock somewhere until the whole thing, it's not his fault.
Certainly not, no. Writers are shat upon in Hollywood, I hear, even though for decades people, Raymond Chandler have written, these guys with, the dollar signs in their eyes and the morals of a goat like to produce.
Well, I actually heard about an agent actually sitting in a meeting with a studio, and a writer had come, a huge bestseller. They're going to talk about, they just bought the book. And the head of this studio said, with a writer sitting right there in the room, said, love the title, love part of the concept, and we'll take it from there. So the idea is they don't care, and here's this wonderful book. And I just think that the American public really is getting tired of that, and that Hollywood would do well to serve the literature, to serve the language, and let the people with the ideas who are writing. There's a lot of good books around there, and better movies could be made out of them.
And there actually was a time when there were scripts that were fun to read as scripts. I mean, you could almost listen to All About Eve, not to detract from it in any way.
But see, now they don't care.
You could listen to it almost on the radio and like it much because there's such a good written story there.
And the problem, I think, in that regard is MTV, because the audience now is used to watching things that are interesting enough of themselves but have no connecting tissue. So movies now, particularly the ones really aimed at a commercial audience, are just, we take events and string them together, but we forget about logic and character development and through line and spine and all those things that are traditionally the backbone of good scripts.
You still wince when someone adds the S to the end of your name by mistake. Never mind, you don't have to answer
I think they could
that.
be a little more careful,
I will not mention the word Superman throughout this whole show because I see that it's in your contract.
Right.
I would be kind of interested to know what stages you have what have been the stages of your ability to become known as something else? How many films does one have to do in plays before people go, hey,
It's interesting. What you really need to do is just make smart decisions after the movie to put you on the map. And it's almost axiomatic that right after your first big hit, you will make one or two mistakes. Dustin Hoffman, for example, in my opinion, right after The Graduate made John and Mary, which was like invisible. It's hard to make those choices because, see, Superman didn't limit my opportunities. It created so many that I was too young and too immature to understand them. And in ways, I was miscast or made mistakes, whatever, which now, after being a film actor for 15 years and a theater actor for 25 years, now I feel, okay, I'm really ready. And so the process for me actually was, people watched me learn how to act for the camera in front, in 1,500 theaters and huge. I mean, I didn't do it by playing supporting parts in NYU student films or something. I did it big time right in front of you. And that, to me, was a kind of interesting way to go. And I think all you need to do really is it's one part that makes money. That's all there is to it.
Are there guys going around claiming they turned it down because they knew that would happen to them and they didn't want to mess with it?
In fact, what happened was that before Superman 1, these films tended to be black and white B pictures cast with kind of insignificant actors. I don't mean to be rude, but basically they're not major actors. And Superman 1 was the first film to make big screen, Dolby stereo, convincing special effects, and to try to make this sort of real. And now every actor, now you've got legitimate actors who have no intention of being typecast. Dustin Hoffman as Hook. I mean, Robin Williams has played Popeye and Peter Pan in the same career. Plus he's up for an Academy Awards for Awakening. So Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. We started because we had Gene Hackman and Marlon Brando and Trevor Howard and Susanna York and Jeffrey Unsworth as a cameraman. So I feel in a way I was part of a pioneering effort. And sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay.
It's your show. What am I doing?
That's true. Never talk when I even look like I'm going to.
Sir.
Did what Jack Nicholson calls the man on the hill give you any tips? I want to collect a book of tips like Walter Brennan I got to be on a series episode once, Western, and he said, I noticed something. Always look at the other person, kid, with your down camera eye, because it gets more of your face on the screen. I would love to find a book of 100 wisdoms like that from screen actors.
I can throw in one real quick. You know, for
All right.
everybody, all the screen actors out there, or would be. That camera, that as it comes close to you, there is a tendency, as they push the camera closer, it's an intrusion in your reality, and people's attention level tends to increase, particularly when they're coming in for close-ups.
Right.
And
so the viewer's attention level increases.
No, the actor's his tension level.
Oh, tension level.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so what happens is, a camera has to be absolutely ignored in order to be won over completely.
Doesn't that take Zen concentration, though?
No. It takes relaxation. In fact, the less hard you try, the better you do. And so the one tip is try to act in your close-up with the same ease that you did the off-camera for the other guy. For those of you who don't know, off-camera...
Boy, you're so right about that, and I didn't realize it.
The off-camera is when they're on, say they're on Dick's close-up, and I'm going to say the lines in the scene, and they'll film him. Notice now the camera's not on me, so I'm totally relaxed. Well, when they turn it around and come in here, don't let that layer of artifice increase.
That's right. This is an insight.
Yeah. A lot of actors have problems with that.
Among my pictures is one I made with my dear friend Michael Keaton, whom I didn't meet. I was in Beetlejuice for, what was I in, 3.5 minutes? You probably timed it, I did. And I remember they said, now we're doing the close-up, and I thought, oh, now I've got to really say this right.
Yeah. See, now
and immediately I clench.
Yeah, you put a pressure on yourself, and you've got to be absolutely just at ease so the camera can eavesdrop and pick up reality. And if you try to sell your reality in any way, then it comes across as acting, and then you're in trouble.
You know, that's so interesting that I forgot what I... Oh, I wondered, did Brando ever lean in and say, never turn right with your shoulder lowered, or anything like that?
Brando actually didn't have 2 words to say to me.
Did he say, don't let him push you around, kid? That's what was quoted in something. It's your picture, don't let him
He
push
did.
you.
We had an episode, actually, Brando was supposed to be in Superman 2. And we shot some sequences of Superman 2 before we did 1. Then for various legal reasons, he was not in Superman 2. But day 1 of working with Brando was a scene in which we were working together. And Superman had lost his powers, and he's supposed to reach out and touch me on the shoulder and give the powers back. The script says that Superman reacts as though sort of like electricity is going through his body. Now, I mean, that hasn't happened to me lately, so I'm giving an impression of what this would be like. And I'm doing it, and they're on me. My close-up, Brando's off camera. And I start to do it, and I'm supposed to have this electrical thing happen, then collapse on the floor, and I get up to see him smirking. There's this little smile on his face that he's like, and I don't know where this courage came from, but I turned to him and said, listen, I don't know how to do this, but I sure am trying. And I'd appreciate it if we could work together on this. Or words to that effect, said with a certain amount of intensity.
Was that when he broke your jaw?
No, that's when he sent me the flowers and the candy from Fortnum & Mason and said, hey, I really respect what you're trying to do here.
I remember Miss Hepburn praising you for going up with all those people and not losing your cool.